Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Sam here from the TNR channel, and today, guys, the thing I want to be doing is, this has been a question that's been on my mind ever since Batman vs Superman. Who is the better Batman? Now, I'm going to be comparing this with the two live screen adaptations of Batman we've seen in the past, 10 years. That is, of course, the Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy Batman, and the newest DC Extended Universe Ben Affleck Batman. So I'm going to be going through all of the main points of them and seeing if they were to have a fight on all these different sections that I'm about to talk about, who would win on either section, and then tally all the points up in the end, see who would actually win when all of these things were considered and they had everything. Alright. So the first point I want to go over is their training. So if their training and their strength and their stamina and everything about them was to be pit up against each other, they were stuck in a room to fight each other. They had no gadgets. They only had their standard Batman armor. They had no vehicles, no gadgets, just their standard Batman armor. Who would actually win? I believe if they were to have a fight, I think it would just easily be Ben Affleck. Simply because of the fact that Ben Affleck can beat up Superman. Even though he was under kryptonite, Ben Affleck still just handed Superman's ass to him in BVS. He picked him up, he threw him, he grappled him through concrete beams. He was absolutely destroyed Superman, and his strength, you see him actually crack a guy into the floorboards and smash it open, and you see him smash a guy's head straight into the concrete. You also see that pulling tires scene where he pulls heavy tractor tires with one arm, and the Ben Affleck Batman is just a complete tank compared to the Christian Bale one. And I think he has more stamina as well, considering you see him running and jumping and smashing some guys into a wooden crate box. He does sort of an RKO over it, and he has stamina, and he just would, if they were stuck in a room, their armor, and his armor's more flexible, he can move around more in his armor. He could just easily move around more in his armor, and he could just easily move around a lot more in his armor. So I think if they were to have a one-on-one fight in a room, I think it would just easily be better. The next thing I want to talk about is the mindset. Now, both of the incarnations of Batman have two mindsets, and they're completely different mindsets to each other. So you have the Christian Bale Batman, who goes out and with the sole intent to keep his enemies alive, and you have the Affleck Batman, who goes out with the sole intent to kill. So they have completely opposite agendas when it comes to subduing their criminals. Affleck just wants to completely get them off the streets for good. He will mercilessly kill them. He just wants to get them off the streets for good, and just show the other criminals that might want to get into the business what happens if you mess with Affleck. While Christian Bale will just lock them up so they can escape again and just keep them alive, which is completely pointless, in my opinion. So if they were stuck in a room together, again, no gadgets or armor, just no gadgets or armor at all, just themselves, it would easily Affleck would take it again, simply because of the fact that Bale wouldn't go to the necessary lengths that's needed to stop such a brutal force like Ben Affleck Batman. He wouldn't go to the same lengths. So that's why Ben Affleck would take it home, because Ben Affleck would have no trouble killing Christian Bale at all. He would easily just kill him mercilessly. And it would just be it would be so hard for Christian Bale's Batman to subdue him and find a way to get him unconscious as well, without killing him. It'd be too hard, and Ben Affleck would easily just take the win because of how much more strength and brutality he has, and he has a better focused mindset as well. Our next point is intelligence. Now, both of the Batmans are very smart men. Don't get me wrong. Ben Affleck is a very smart man, and so is Christian Bale's Batman. But if I think Christian Bale is has a lot more intellect and is a lot quicker on his feet when it comes to intelligence. So if they were to have like an intelligence battle, I think Christian Bale would definitely pull it home just because of how smart he is. Like, you see him in the Dark Knight trilogy solving unsolvable mysteries and, like, you know, cases, and he manages to get to the bottom and solve them. But with Ben Affleck, you don't really see much of him using his mind, more just his fists. I mean, you see him a bit decrypting, you see him solving the case of Wonder Woman, which is good, but all he has to do is decrypt the file, which he doesn't really do himself. It's more what his computer does for him. But you actually see Christian Bale's Batman take control of the whole city's phones and make them into his own. Like, he's just so smart compared to Ben Affleck. You can see Christian Bale's Batman uses more of his intellect, and Ben Affleck uses more of his fists. So next, guys, we have wealth. Now, both of them are Bruce Wayne, so they're both relatively wealthy. But which one is it? Is it the Dark Knight Bruce Wayne, or is it the DCEU Bruce Wayne that's the more wealthy person? Now, I think it is the Dark Knight one, simply because of the fact we don't really hear. It's not really mentioned much about his wealth throughout the film, because it's just not really needed. It's more just focusing on him and Superman and setting up the Justice League, and not really talking about Bruce Wayne's wealth. You see him in a fast car and you see him with his gadgets, but it's nothing compared to what we've seen with Christian Bale. As Christian Bale owns his own business, and Wayne Enterprises isn't really mentioned that much, or we don't even know whether Bruce Wayne owns it. We know that Bruce Wayne in the DCEU never leaves his house much, and that's like a completely different Bruce Wayne to the one we know in the Dark Knight trilogy. So I think if they were to have a wealth battle and the money, I think Christian Bale would easily just destroy him, because he probably has a lot more money and he expresses it more, and he would just easily take home the win. So that leaves us on 2-2 at the minute. Next, we've got fear. Now, to be Batman, you can't really have fear of anything. But you know, there have been multiple times where Batman has feared, when the Dark Knight Batman has feared something. Christian Bale has feared for, like, his friends, but we never actually see we never actually see Ben Affleck be feared by something. And also, Ben Affleck's not just feared by the criminals. He's actually he's not even feared by the criminals that he's killing, but he's also feared by the civilians that he is putting away while he's taking away the criminals as well. Which, you know, if you're scared by the people that you're trying to help, you know that you must be a very scary guy. But with Christian Bale, you just never see anybody being properly scared about his appearance, while you really can with Ben Affleck. So I think that point's going to have to go to Ben Affleck to make it 3-2. And next you have the gadgets. Now, the gadgets that Batman uses in BVS are a lot more advanced and more high-tech than the ones you have in the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, the grapple gun that's used in BVS can pick up Superman and can pull Batman away, and it can hold Batman in his heavy battle armor along with Superman while crashing him into, like, concrete beams. Now, his grapple gun is a very, very high-tech weapon, and it's very strong. So, and if you compare that to the Dark Knight one, it's just not as advanced. So I would just think that the gadgets point is going to have to go to Batfleck. Now, my last point, which that makes it 4-2 by the way, guys. My last point is vehicles. Now, vehicles, I would say, is now the vehicles, how do I put this? The vehicles are both strong in BVS, but I would say BVS actually pulls it home. Because I wouldn't say BVS pulls it home, because now I would say the Batman vs Superman Batmobile and Batwing are more armed, but not as armoured. So they have a lot more weapons on them than, say, the Batpod does in the Dark Knight trilogy, or the Tumbler. But it's not as armoured as the Tumbler and the Batpod were. We've seen the Batpod take multiple hits from missiles, and we've seen the Tumbler take an RPG at point blank range from the Joker. It still did destroy it, but it only took the vehicle offline. It didn't make it destroy itself. Like, it destroyed itself, like it self-destructed, but the RPG didn't. He took an RPG within a 2-meter radius, and he's completely just didn't really destroy any of the armor. It just stopped the car from working. So that was proof that the armor wasn't was not bad. So, but with the BVS Batmobile, you see Batman has to brake to turn around the corner. You see him actually braking to turn around the corner. So the force that he must have been going around the corner mustn't have been a high, like, it mustn't have been a high sort of, like, equation. Because if he was turning around the corner and he was braking at the same time, the speed must have been completely lowered. But yet, when he still crashes into Superman, I mean, Superman is probably one of, if not the most powerful person in the DC universe in general. But even then, if you crashed into somebody, even a normal person wouldn't even fall over from that. So, but it still manages to completely level the whole front of the Batmobile, along with Superman just easily being able to tear off the doors. So, it's just not a very well armoured car. It's armed, but not armoured. Not as well armoured in like actual physical body armour. And it's the same with the Batwing and the Batpod. The Batpod, like I mentioned earlier, can completely just take it can take missiles, and it just nothing happens, as you see in the Dark Knight Rises. But in BVS, it's taken back down by a simple laser. So I think the points for vehicles will actually have to go to Christian Bale. So it was a very close matchup, but Ben Affleck finally took it home with his Ben Affleck actually managed to take the win home with his 4 points to Christian Bale's 3. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming to watch today's episode from TNR. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're new here, maybe not subscribe. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in our next video. Goodbye, guys.